Emily had been looking forward to her weekend getaway for weeks. It was meant to be a time for her and her boyfriend, Mark, to unwind from their hectic schedules and reconnect after a particularly stressful few months. They had decided on a quaint hotel in the mountains, known for its stunning views and cozy ambience. As she packed her bags, Emily felt a mix of excitement and nervous anticipation. This trip was not just a break from reality, it was also a chance to celebrate their recent anniversary, and she wanted everything to be perfect. She double-checked their itinerary, ensuring she had packed all the essentials: a nice outfit for their romantic dinner, comfortable clothes for hiking, and even a few surprises for Mark. The day of their trip finally arrived. Emily loaded the car with their bags, her heart racing at the thought of a peaceful weekend away. Mark arrived just in time, a huge grin on his face, holding a bouquet of wildflowers he had picked up along the way. "For you," he said, presenting them to her with a flourish. "They're beautiful." "Thank you," Emily replied, her heart fluttering. As they drove toward the mountains, they laughed and reminisced about their relationship, the miles melting away with each passing moment. The winding roads and breathtaking landscapes filled her with a sense of adventure. When they finally arrived at the hotel, Emily could hardly contain her excitement. The quaint building was nestled among tall pines, with a charming porch and colorful flowers blooming everywhere. It felt like a postcard come to life. "Here we are," Mark exclaimed, parking the car and turning to Emily with a wide smile. "Ready for some fun?" "Absolutely," Emily replied, unable to hide her enthusiasm. They entered the lobby, which was warm and inviting, filled with the scent of fresh-baked cookies. The receptionist greeted them with a warm smile. "Welcome. Checking in?" "Yes, we have a reservation under Mark Thompson," Mark said confidently. The receptionist began typing on her computer, but her smile faded slightly as she looked up. "I'm sorry, but it seems there's a problem with your reservation." Emily's heart sank. "What do you mean? We booked weeks ago." "I see that you did, but it appears that there's been a double booking for your room," the receptionist explained, her brow furrowing in concern. "I'm very sorry, but we don't have a room available for you tonight." "What? How is that possible?" Mark asked, incredulity etched across his face. "I can check nearby hotels for you," the receptionist offered, her voice apologetic. "No, we're not going anywhere else," Emily interjected, feeling the panic rising within her. "We came all this way. There has to be a room." The receptionist glanced back at her computer. "I truly apologize. We're completely booked. But let me see what I can do. I'll check if there's a cancellation." As she worked, Emily and Mark exchanged worried glances. The excitement of the trip was rapidly draining away. "What are we going to do?" Emily whispered, feeling a knot form in her stomach. "Maybe we can just drive around and find another place?" "There are other hotels in the area," Mark suggested, trying to sound optimistic. Just then, the receptionist looked back up, her expression shifting to one of relief. "I might have found a solution. There's one room that just opened up, but it's a bit unconventional." "What do you mean?" Mark asked, narrowing his eyes. "It's a suite that's typically reserved for special occasions, but it's available tonight. The only catch is that it's a shared suite. There's another couple booked in the adjoining room," she explained hesitantly. Emily felt a wave of frustration wash over her. "So you're saying we'd have to share a suite? That's not what we had in mind." "I understand, but it's the only option we have right now," the receptionist said gently. "You would have your own bedroom, and it's quite spacious. The shared area is just a common living room." Mark looked at Emily, who could see the wheels turning in his mind. "We could make it work, right? It's only for one night," he said, trying to find a silver lining. Emily hesitated, glancing at the receptionist, who was still watching them with concern. I guess we don't have much of a choice, she finally admitted. Let's take it? Great. I'll get your keys, the receptionist said, her demeanor brightening. As they made their way to the suite, Emily couldn't shake the uneasy feeling settling in her stomach. She had imagined this getaway as a romantic escape, and now they would be sharing their space with strangers. Upon entering the suite, Emily was taken aback by its size. It was beautifully decorated, with a cozy living area and a separate bedroom for each couple. However, the thought of someone else being just a wall away made her uneasy. See? It's not so bad, Mark said, trying to lift her spirits as he dropped their bags on the bed. Yeah, I guess, Emily replied, forcing a smile. Let's just make the best of it. As they settled in, Emily couldn't help but wonder who their neighbors would be. Would they be friendly, or would they intrude on their romantic weekend? The uncertainty gnawed at her as the sun began to set, casting a warm glow across the mountains. Just as they were about to head out for dinner, there was a knock on the door. Emily's heart raced. I guess that's them, she said nervously. Mark opened the door, and Emily's breath caught in her throat. Standing before them was a couple in their late 20s, both stunning and effortlessly charming. Hey. I'm Jake, and this is my girlfriend, Lisa, the man said, flashing a bright smile. Looks like we're neighbors. Emily felt her cheeks flush as she exchanged introductions, but inside, a sense of unease settled deeper. The night was turning into a whirlwind, and she couldn't shake the feeling that their weekend was already spiraling out of control. Do you guys want to join us for dinner? Lisa suggested, her voice cheerful and inviting. There's a great little restaurant just down the road. Emily exchanged a glance with Mark, who looked intrigued. Sure, that sounds fun, he said, his enthusiasm evident. As they headed out together, Emily's heart raced with a mix of excitement and trepidation. This weekend had taken an unexpected turn, and she wondered what other surprises lay in store. Little did she know, the night was just the beginning of an unforgettable and potentially life-altering adventure. Chapter 2: The Dinner Invitation. As they walked down the dimly lit path toward the restaurant, Emily's mind buzzed with a mixture of anticipation and unease. Mark and Lisa chatted animatedly, while Jake occasionally tossed in humorous remarks that made Mark laugh heartily. Emily found herself smiling, but it felt forced as her mind raced. So, how long have you two been together? Lisa asked, her eyes sparkling with interest as they approached the restaurant. Almost 3 years now, Mark replied, his hand instinctively finding Emily's. We're celebrating our anniversary this weekend. Nice. We just celebrated our 2-year anniversary last month, Jake chimed in, glancing at Lisa with a smile. What a coincidence. Yeah, it's our first trip together since we got serious, Lisa added, her voice bubbly. We're all about creating memories, right? Emily nodded, trying to keep her expression neutral, but inside, she felt a twinge of envy at how easy and carefree Lisa seemed. As they entered the restaurant, the warmth enveloped them, and the rich aroma of grilled meats and spices filled the air. The ambience was cozy, with dim lighting and rustic wooden tables, creating an inviting atmosphere. They settled into a large booth, and Mark sat next to Emily, while Jake and Lisa sat opposite them. The conversation flowed effortlessly, and Emily found herself participating more than she expected. They shared stories about their travels, favorite food, and silly mishaps. Yet, in the back of her mind, Emily couldn't shake the feeling of being on edge. The chemistry between Mark and Lisa was evident, they laughed easily and shared jokes, leaving Emily feeling slightly sidelined. So, what do you do for fun? Lisa asked, her eyes lighting up as she turned to Emily. I enjoy hiking and photography, Emily replied, attempting to muster enthusiasm. I love capturing landscapes, especially when we travel. That's awesome. We should go hiking together sometime. Lisa exclaimed, her excitement contagious. There are some great trails around here. Emily forced a smile. That sounds fun. As the evening progressed, Emily began to feel more relaxed. The food was delicious, and the ambience soothed her nerves. Mark seemed genuinely engaged in the conversation, and she felt a flicker of gratitude for the chance to connect with new people. Just as she was beginning to enjoy herself, Jake leaned closer to Mark and asked, "So, what's the craziest thing you've ever done together?" Emily's stomach dropped. She glanced at Mark, who paused, a thoughtful expression on his face. Well, Mark started, glancing at Emily. "We went skydiving last year. That was pretty wild." "Wow. That's insane." Jake replied, genuinely impressed. "I'm not sure I'd ever have the guts to do that." "Neither did I at first, but it turned out to be one of the best experiences of my life," Mark said, his eyes shining with excitement as he turned to Emily. "Yeah, it was exhilarating," Emily added, feeling a swell of pride. "I was terrified, but it was worth it." "I don't know if I could do that," Lisa said, her voice teasing. "I'm more of a keep my feet on the ground kind of person." As the conversation shifted to light-hearted topics and shared laughter, Emily felt the tension ease a bit. However, as the evening wore on, she noticed Jake glancing at her more frequently, his gaze lingering a moment longer than necessary. When they finished their meals, Mark suggested they share a dessert. "How about the chocolate lava cake?" he proposed. "Sounds perfect." Lisa agreed, her enthusiasm infectious. As the waitress took their orders, Emily felt a strange sensation creeping back in. It was as if she were a spectator in a movie, watching as Mark and Lisa effortlessly connected while she felt increasingly like an outsider. When the dessert arrived, the chocolate cake oozed with warm fudge, and everyone dug in, complimenting the chef. Mark leaned in closer to Emily, their elbows brushing as they shared the plate, which made her heart race momentarily. "You're really good at this," he said quietly, stealing a glance at her before returning to the dessert. "I'm glad we're doing this." "Me too," Emily replied, feeling a wave of affection. But before she could savor the moment, she noticed Jake again watching her intently. "So, Emily, what's your favorite place you've ever hiked?" Jake asked, breaking her focus. I'd have to say the Grand Canyon. It's just breathtaking," she replied, trying to keep the conversation flowing despite feeling his gaze. "Nice. I've always wanted to go there." "What was the best part?" he continued, leaning in a bit closer. "The views are incredible, and there's something so peaceful about being surrounded by nature," Emily said, her heart racing a little as she felt Mark's hand on hers. "That sounds amazing," Jake said, his expression thoughtful. "You know, I think I could learn a thing or two from you about enjoying the outdoors." "Yeah, maybe you could," Emily replied, trying to keep the tone light, though she felt a twinge of discomfort. The conversation shifted again as they finished their dessert, and Lisa began discussing their hiking plans. "We should all go together sometime. It'd be a blast." Emily forced a smile, feeling the weight of the invitation. "That could be fun," she said, though a hint of uncertainty crept into her voice. As they left the restaurant, the cool evening air greeted them, and Emily felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. The night had turned into something unexpected, and she felt as though she was walking a tightrope between enjoying new friendships and feeling overshadowed by the apparent connection between Mark and Lisa. Back at the hotel suite, Emily felt her anxiety bubble up again. As they entered the room, Jake and Lisa bid them good night, promising to catch up in the morning for breakfast. Once the door closed behind them, Emily turned to Mark, trying to mask her feelings. "That was interesting," she said, crossing her arms. "Yeah. They're great. I really liked hanging out with them," Mark replied, his enthusiasm evident. "Yeah, they're nice," Emily said slowly, feeling a mix of emotions. But did you notice how much you two clicked? Mark raised an eyebrow, clearly not seeing it the same way. What do you mean? It was just friendly. Maybe, but I felt a bit overshadowed, Emily admitted, her voice softer now. I don't want to feel like I'm competing for your attention. Jess, you're not competing for anything. I'm with you. You're my priority, Mark said, stepping closer and taking her hands in his. I promise you that. Okay, I just needed to say it, Emily replied, feeling a wave of relief wash over her. Let's just enjoy our weekend, okay? It's just one night, he said, pulling her into an embrace. Emily melted into him, feeling reassured but still aware that the night had set the stage for something unpredictable. As they settled into their separate rooms for the night, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that this trip was only the beginning of a much more complicated adventure. Chapter 3: A Day of Unexpected Turns. Morning sunlight streamed through the window, gently nudging Emily awake. She rubbed her eyes and glanced at the clock 8:00 a.m. She felt a mix of excitement and apprehension as she recalled the events of the previous night. The thought of sharing a suite with Jake and Lisa had stirred a whirlwind of emotions, but the promise of a new day gave her a sense of hope. After getting ready, Emily made her way to the common area of the suite, where the aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the air. Mark was already awake, pouring 2 cups. Good morning, sleepyhead, he called out cheerfully, handing her a cup. I figured we could have a little coffee before they join us. Thanks. That sounds perfect, Emily replied, trying to shake off the lingering anxiety from the previous night. As they sipped their coffee, Mark suggested they hike a nearby trail that was known for its breathtaking views. I heard from the staff that it's a great spot, and we could use some fresh air, he said, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Sounds amazing. I could use some time outdoors, Emily agreed, feeling her spirits lift. Just then, there was a knock on the door. That must be Jake and Lisa, Mark said, setting down his cup. Emily's heart raced as they both went to the door. Good morning, Lisa exclaimed, her smile bright and contagious. Jake stood beside her, equally cheerful. Ready to hit the trails? Absolutely, Mark replied, his enthusiasm infectious. Emily felt her nerves settle slightly, eager to embrace the day ahead. They quickly grabbed their gear and set off toward the trailhead, the cool morning air refreshing as they walked. The conversation flowed easily, with laughter and playful banter filling the space. Emily felt herself relaxing more, the earlier tension gradually melting away. As they approached the trail, Lisa and Jake took the lead, chatting animatedly about their plans for the day. Emily and Mark followed closely behind, sharing quiet moments between them. See? This is nice, Mark said, glancing at Emily with a reassuring smile. I'm glad we decided to come. Yeah, me too, Emily replied, her heart swelling at the sight of him so happy. She couldn't deny that being outdoors together felt revitalizing. The trail meandered through towering pine trees, with patches of sunlight filtering down to the forest floor. Emily inhaled deeply, the fresh scent of pine filling her lungs. As they reached a lookout point with stunning views of the valley below, the group paused to take it all in. This is breathtaking, Lisa exclaimed, snapping photos with her phone. Emily couldn't help but smile at the beauty surrounding them, but as she turned to Mark to share the moment, she noticed Jake standing a bit too close to her, pointing out details in the landscape. Can you believe how vast it is? Jake asked Emily, his tone enthusiastic. It's incredible up here, right? Yeah, it really is, she replied, trying to keep her focus on the view, but the sensation of being watched tugged at her. She caught Mark's eye, and he gave her a reassuring nod, but it didn't fully quell the unease creeping back. After some time enjoying the scenery, they decided to take a break, settling onto a nearby log to rest. Emily sat between Mark and Lisa, who immediately launched into another story about their latest adventure. As the laughter echoed around them, Emily felt a mixture of warmth and frustration. It was great to see Mark having fun, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was losing him in the dynamic. "So, Emily, what's your favorite thing about hiking?" Jake asked, leaning in slightly. "Oh, I love the tranquility of it all," she replied, trying to sound enthusiastic. "It's nice to disconnect from everything and just be present in nature." "Exactly. You get it," Jake said, his eyes lighting up. "I feel like we spend too much time cooped up inside. I really want to start going on more hikes." "Same." Mark chimed in. "I think we should all make a habit of it. I'd love to explore more trails together." "Absolutely. We could create a little hiking group," Lisa suggested, her enthusiasm palpable. Emily felt a tightness in her chest as the idea sank in. It seemed like they were forming a bond that she hadn't anticipated. She forced a smile, trying to maintain her composure. As the group continued their banter, Emily excused herself for a moment, needing to catch her breath. She wandered a few steps away, taking a deep breath to center herself. The beauty of the landscape surrounded her, but her mind raced with conflicting feelings. "Hey," Mark's voice broke through her thoughts. She turned to see him approaching, concern etched on his face. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I just needed a moment," she admitted. "I don't want to sound dramatic, but it feels a bit overwhelming sometimes." "I get it. I want you to know you're my priority," Mark said, taking her hand. "I'm just enjoying the company, but you're the one I'm here for." "I know, Emily paused, searching for the right words. "I don't want to lose our connection in all this. It's hard to see you connect with them." Mark nodded, understanding. "We can focus on just us. We can hike ahead if you want. Let them chat and catch up." "Would you really do that?" Emily asked, her heart lifting at the suggestion. "Of course. It's our trip, after all. Let's make it special," Mark replied with a warm smile. Feeling a surge of gratitude, Emily squeezed his hand. "Thank you. I really appreciate that." They rejoined the others, and Mark suggested they take a separate path that would lead to a more secluded area. Lisa and Jake exchanged glances but agreed. As they walked along the quieter trail, Emily felt a wave of relief wash over her. The sound of birds chirping and leaves rustling was soothing, and with each step, her connection with Mark deepened. "This is more like it," Mark said, glancing over at her, a grin spreading across his face. "Just us, the woods, and some peace." "Exactly what I needed," Emily replied, her heart swelling as they ventured further into the forest. The world around them felt more alive, and for a while, it was just the two of them, sharing stories and dreams without distractions. They stopped at a small clearing, where sunlight poured through the branches, creating a warm glow. "I've missed this," Emily said, looking up at the trees. "Just us being us." Mark stepped closer, taking her hands in his. "Me too. No distractions, just you and me." As they stood there, enveloped in each other's presence, Emily felt a renewed sense of closeness. But even in this moment of peace, she couldn't shake the feeling that the day was still young, and more surprises awaited them. Chapter 4: The Sudden Storm. The peaceful atmosphere of the secluded clearing enveloped Emily and Mark, allowing them to revel in the closeness that had been overshadowed by the dynamics of the previous day. They spent time sharing their dreams and hopes for the future, relishing the simplicity of the moment. But as the sun climbed higher, Emily noticed the sky starting to darken. "Do you think we should head back?" she asked, glancing up at the ominous clouds gathering overhead. "Maybe," Mark replied, his brow furrowed slightly. "But I really want to enjoy this moment a bit longer. Let's just keep an eye on it." They lingered, talking about everything and nothing, but the wind began to pick up, rustling the leaves with a warning whisper. "I don't know, Mark. I think we should definitely start heading back," Emily insisted, a hint of concern in her voice. "All right, let's go," he agreed reluctantly. They turned back toward the trail, but as they started walking, the first drops of rain began to fall, creating a soft patter against the leaves. "I knew it!" Emily exclaimed, quickening her pace. "We need to hurry." The gentle drizzle quickly escalated into a downpour, drenching them in moments. Emily and Mark ran through the forest, laughter mingling with their urgent shouts as they dodged trees and splashed through puddles. "Why is this always happening to us?" Mark shouted, his laughter echoing through the rain. "Who knew we'd get caught in a storm?" Emily replied, her heart racing not just from the sprint but from the thrill of the moment. They finally reached the main trail, spotting Jake and Lisa standing under the shelter of a large tree, laughing and shivering. "You guys made it?" Lisa called, her voice bright despite the weather. "We thought you'd be lost forever." "Yeah, just getting a little wet," Mark joked, shaking his head like a dog to fling the water off. "Do you think we should keep going?" Jake asked, glancing at the sky, where lightning flickered in the distance. "No way. We need to find shelter," Emily said, glancing nervously at the darkening clouds. "This isn't going to let up anytime soon." "Let's head back to the lodge," Mark suggested. "We can wait out the storm there." Reluctantly, the group made their way back to the lodge, each step squelching in the mud. They arrived breathless and soaked, laughing at their misfortune. As they stepped inside, the warmth enveloped them, a stark contrast to the cold rain outside. "Let's dry off," Lisa suggested, leading the way to the common area. The four of them found seats around the fireplace, which crackled to life, casting a cozy glow. They peeled off their wet layers, tossing them in a pile to dry. "This is a wild start to our trip," Jake exclaimed, laughing as he tried to wring out his shirt. Mark glanced at Emily, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "Want to make this even more interesting? Let's see who can tell the craziest story while we wait for the rain to stop." "Okay, I'm in," Lisa said eagerly. "I've got a couple of good ones." As they took turns sharing stories, Emily felt a mix of warmth and anxiety. The laughter filled the room, but she noticed Jake stealing glances at her, a smirk playing on his lips. When it was Emily's turn, she hesitated for a moment, feeling the weight of their expectations. "All right, I'll go," she said, gathering her thoughts. "So, a couple of years ago, my friends and I went camping, and we thought it'd be funny to prank one of our friends. We convinced him there was a ghost in the woods." "Nice. How'd you do that?" Jake leaned in, intrigued. "We made spooky sounds at night, and one of us dressed up as a ghost and scared him while he was alone. He ran back to the camp screaming," Emily explained, laughing at the memory. "It was hilarious, but he refused to go camping with us again." "That's a classic," Mark said, shaking his head, amused. "Your turn, Mark," Lisa urged, leaning forward. Mark launched into a story about a disastrous road trip he took with friends, where they ended up lost in the mountains. "We didn't have GPS, and we were just driving, trying to find a gas station. It was pitch dark, and we saw something moving in the trees. We all screamed and locked the doors." Emily laughed, enjoying the camaraderie that surrounded them. But as the stories continued, she felt Jake's gaze on her more often, lingering a moment too long. "Okay, now it's my turn," Jake said with a grin, his eyes sparkling. "So, I once went on a date with a girl who said she loved the outdoors. We planned a picnic by the lake, and she insisted on bringing her dog. The dog ended up eating all the food, and then jumped into the lake. Let's just say, it was a very wet and embarrassing first date." Everyone laughed, but Emily felt a strange tension in the air. "What about you, Lisa?" she prompted, eager to change the subject. Lisa shared her own camping disaster, where she accidentally set her tent up on a fire ant hill, resulting in a night filled with chaos and itchy bites. The laughter bubbled up, easing the heaviness that lingered. As the rain continued to pour outside, they settled into a rhythm, each story creating an invisible thread connecting them. But Emily still sensed the tension between her and Jake, who seemed intent on getting her attention. Just as they were getting comfortable, the power flickered and went out, plunging the room into semi-darkness. The crackling fireplace became their only light source, casting flickering shadows on the walls. "Great, just what we need," Mark exclaimed, but his tone was light-hearted. "I guess we'll just have to keep the stories going." "More ghost stories," Lisa suggested playfully, making everyone chuckle. As they settled back into storytelling, Jake leaned a little closer to Emily. "So, what do you think of the trip so far?" he asked, his tone casual but his gaze intent. "It's been a roller coaster," Emily replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "But honestly, I'm glad we're all together." "Yeah, I'm really enjoying this time with you," Jake said, his tone shifting slightly. "I mean, you're fun to be around." Mark glanced over, a subtle shift in his posture. Emily could feel the tension rise, her heart racing. "Thanks. I think we're all having a great time," she replied, hoping to diffuse the moment. Just then, the power flickered back on, illuminating the room and breaking the spell. The group erupted in cheers, and the atmosphere shifted back to lightheartedness as they joked about the unexpected adventure. As they continued to share stories and laughter, Emily felt a sense of camaraderie forming, but the underlying tension with Jake lingered. She knew that as the day unfolded, there were still uncharted waters to navigate, and the surprises of the weekend were far from over. Chapter 5: Secrets and Shadows. The warmth of the fireplace washed over the group, filling the room with a cozy ambience that contrasted sharply with the brewing tension. The laughter resumed, but Emily felt a knot forming in her stomach as she sensed Jake's gaze lingering on her. Mark seemed to notice too, his eyes darting between Emily and Jake, a hint of concern etched on his face. "So, who wants to play a game?" Lisa suggested, breaking through the tension. "How about a classic like Truth or Dare?" "Perfect. I'm in," Mark replied enthusiastically, his mood infectious. Emily felt a surge of relief at the idea. Games often lighten the atmosphere, and it would be a fun distraction. "Sounds great," she agreed, trying to focus on the positive. "All right, I'll go first," Lisa declared. "Mark, Truth or Dare?" "Let's go with Dare," he said confidently. "I dare you to tell us your most embarrassing childhood story," Lisa challenged, a mischievous grin on her face. Mark chuckled, his cheeks flushing slightly. "Okay, but you asked for it?" "When I was 10, I really wanted to impress this girl in my class. I decided to show off my skills by jumping over a puddle. Instead, I tripped, landed right in it, and splashed mud all over her." Everyone erupted in laughter, and Mark playfully bowed, pretending to be a hero despite his humiliation. "All right, Jake, your turn," Lisa said, clearly enjoying the game. "Truth or Dare?" Jake asked Emily, his eyes glinting with mischief. Emily hesitated for a moment, feeling the weight of his gaze. Truth. "All right, what's the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to you on a date?" he probed, leaning in slightly, a challenge in his voice. Emily felt heat rising to her cheeks, but she tried to play it cool. "Okay, there was this one time I accidentally spilled a drink all over my date. I was so embarrassed I spent the whole evening apologizing instead of enjoying the night." "Classic." Jake laughed, but there was an intensity in his expression that made Emily uneasy. "Your turn, Jake." Truth or dare? Mark chimed in, trying to steer the game back to a lighter tone. I'll go with dare, Jake said, his confidence unwavering. Let's see. I dare you to call someone you've dated and tell them you still think about them, Mark challenged, a gleam in his eye. The room fell silent as Jake contemplated the dare, and a smirk crept onto his face. Fine, but I'll make it interesting. I'll call my high school crush, he said, pulling out his phone. Everyone watched in anticipation, the atmosphere thick with excitement. Jake dialed the number, and after a few rings, a voice answered. Hello. Hey, it's Jake. Just wanted to let you know I still think about you from time to time, he said, a playful tone in his voice. The group erupted in laughter, but Emily felt her stomach twist. She didn't know why it bothered her so much, but the thought of Jake still thinking about someone else made her uneasy. Okay, your turn, Emily. Jake said, hanging up and grinning at her. Truth or dare, she asked, trying to keep her composure. Dare, he replied, clearly enjoying the game. I dare you to, she paused, searching for the right challenge. I dare you to let me draw a mustache on your face with this lipstick. Everyone burst into laughter again, and Jake feigned shock. All right, challenge accepted. He leaned in, and Emily grabbed the lipstick from Lisa's bag. As she carefully applied the lipstick to his upper lip, she couldn't help but giggle. There. You make a surprisingly dashing mustached man. Very classy, Jake said, striking a pose while the group erupted in laughter. As the game continued, Emily felt more at ease, the initial tension slowly dissolving with each story and dare. However, the lingering glances from Jake still tugged at her thoughts, casting a shadow over her enjoyment. Once they wrapped up the game, Lisa suggested they play some music to keep the energy flowing. She pulled out her phone and connected it to a portable speaker, filling the room with upbeat tunes. Let's dance, Lisa shouted, pulling everyone to their feet. Emily hesitated, still processing her mixed emotions. But Mark grabbed her hand, pulling her into the impromptu dance party. Come on, it'll be fun, he encouraged, his smile infectious. As the music played, they all danced, the laughter and energy lifting Emily's spirits. But every time she glanced at Jake, she felt a flicker of discomfort at how closely he seemed to be watching her. After a few songs, Emily stepped back, needing a moment to catch her breath. She found a quiet corner of the lodge, leaning against a wall and closing her eyes for a brief moment. Hey, are you okay? Mark's voice broke through her thoughts. She opened her eyes to see him standing nearby, concern etched on his face. Yeah, just needed a breather, she replied, trying to sound casual. Mark studied her for a moment before nodding. You sure? You seemed a little off with Jake earlier. It's nothing, really. It's been a long day, Emily said, forcing a smile. I'm fine. All right, but if you ever need to talk, I'm here, Mark assured her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. Emily felt a warmth spread through her at his support. Thanks, Mark. I really appreciate it. As they rejoined the group, the atmosphere was lively, filled with laughter and music. But as she danced alongside Mark, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was brewing beneath the surface. Jake was still sending her glances, and the chemistry in the room felt electric, yet unsettling. As the night wore on, the storm outside began to subside, but within the lodge, Emily felt like she was caught in a whirlwind of emotions. She enjoyed the camaraderie but sensed that secrets were lurking in the shadows, waiting to be revealed. Chapter 6 Revelations. As the music pulsed in the background, Emily found herself caught in a whirlwind of laughter and dancing, yet a nagging sense of unease lingered just beneath the surface. With each glance Jake shot her way, she felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. She shook her head, trying to dispel the thoughts swirling in her mind, but they lingered like shadows. "Let's play another round of truth or dare," Lisa shouted over the music, her eyes sparkling with energy. "Sure. I'm in," Mark replied, grinning as he moved closer to Emily. Jake, seemingly unfazed, leaned against the wall with an easy confidence. "All right, Lisa. You start again." "Okay. I'll go with you, Jake." "Truth or dare?" Lisa asked, her smile mischievous. "Dare," Jake said, his tone casual, but Emily could see the challenge in his eyes. "I dare you to text someone in your contacts and tell them you have a crush on them," Lisa said, bursting into laughter. Jake raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "All right, I'll do it." He pulled out his phone, smirking. "But I'm picking someone who knows I'm joking." As he typed, Emily's heart raced. She glanced at Mark, who was watching with amusement. "Do you think he'll actually send it?" she whispered, trying to keep the mood light. "Absolutely," Mark replied, chuckling. "He loves this kind of stuff." Jake finished typing and hit send. Done. "Let's see how long it takes for them to respond." Everyone laughed, but Emily felt a strange mix of relief and apprehension. Would Jake's lightheartedness turn serious at any moment? "All right, Emily. Your turn," Lisa called, her voice bubbling with excitement. Okay," Emily stammered, feeling the pressure rise. "Jake, truth or dare?" "Dare," he replied, his confidence unwavering. I dare you to confess something you've never told anyone before," Emily said, hoping to shift the tone of the game. Jake's expression shifted slightly, and for a brief moment, Emily wondered if she had crossed a line. "That's a good one. Let me think." The room fell silent as everyone leaned in, anticipation hanging in the air. "Okay, here goes," he began, his voice steady. "In high school, I had a crush on my best friend's girlfriend. I never acted on it, but I thought about it a lot." Gasps of surprise filled the room, and Emily felt a flutter of nerves. "Wow, that's bold," Mark said, clearly impressed. "Okay, your turn, Emily," Jake said, a playful grin on his face. "All right, I'll go with truth," she said, still feeling a bit shaken by Jake's confession. "Okay, what's the biggest secret you've kept from everyone?" he asked, his eyes fixed on her, probing. Emily's heart raced. The question felt heavy, and for a moment, she hesitated. What could she share that wouldn't reveal too much? When I was in college, I once pretended to be sick to avoid going to a party. I just really didn't want to socialize, she admitted, feeling slightly embarrassed. Laughter erupted again, but Emily felt a strange sense of relief at being honest, even about something small. "Your turn, Mark," Lisa urged, keeping the momentum going. Mark grinned and pointed at Lisa. "Okay, Lisa, truth or dare?" "Truth," she replied, a playful smile on her lips. "Who was your first crush?" Mark asked, leaning back with a smug grin. "Oh, that's easy. My first crush was on a boy in my class named Tim. He had the best skateboard." Lisa recalled, her cheeks flushing slightly. "Skateboarders are always a good choice," Mark teased, and everyone laughed again, the air thick with camaraderie. As the game continued, Emily felt the weight of secrets lingering in the room. She glanced at Jake, who was deep in thought, a playful smirk still on his face, but the intensity of his gaze unsettled her. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and the lodge owner stepped in, rain-soaked and looking a bit frazzled. "Sorry to interrupt, everyone. I wanted to let you know that the storm has caused some issues with the power. It might flicker for a while. Thanks for the heads up," Mark called, his voice bright despite the warning. "Just make sure you stay safe, okay? If it gets too bad, I'll have to move you to another room, the owner replied before stepping back out into the rain. A sense of unease swept through the group as they processed the owner's words. We're fine, right? Emily asked, glancing at Mark. Yeah, we've got each other, he said with a reassuring smile, but Emily could feel the tension in the air intensify. Jake leaned closer to Emily, lowering his voice. You know, if things get crazy, we could always make a run for it. Just the two of us, he said with a smirk. Emily felt her heart race at his words, but she forced herself to respond lightly. I don't think that's a good idea. We should stick together. Mark shot Jake a warning glance, sensing the tension rising again. Come on, let's keep playing, he suggested, trying to redirect the energy. As the night wore on, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that secrets were building like the storm outside, and she was caught in the eye of it all. She wanted to enjoy the moment but felt an invisible line drawing her closer to Jake, a connection that scared her as much as it intrigued her. The game resumed, but Emily's mind was racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. The night was still young, and as laughter and music filled the room, she couldn't help but wonder what other surprises awaited them, hidden beneath the surface. Chapter 7 Unraveling Threads. As the hours passed, the storm outside raged on, a reminder of the brewing tension within the lodge. The flickering lights and the sound of the rain created an eerie ambience, heightening the atmosphere of uncertainty that seemed to hang in the air. Emily felt increasingly on edge, caught between the laughter of her friends and the unspoken tension building between her and Jake. Okay, how about a new game? Lisa suggested, trying to uplift the mood. Let's play 2 truths and a lie. It'll be fun. Great idea. Mark chimed in. I love that game. Who wants to go first? I'll start. Lisa said, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Okay, here are mine. I've been skydiving, I once met a celebrity, and I have a pet tarantula. Mark raised an eyebrow. I'm betting on the tarantula being the lie. Lisa laughed. You got me. I'm terrified of spiders. All right, I'll go next, Mark said, eager to keep the energy flowing. Here we go, I've run a marathon, I've been in a band, and I've never broken a bone. I think the marathon is the lie, Jake guessed, crossing his arms. Nope. I've done a half marathon, but I've never broken a bone, Mark admitted, grinning. Emily took a deep breath, trying to shake off her nerves. Okay, my turn. Here are mine. I've traveled to 5 different countries, I once sang karaoke in front of a huge crowd, and I can play the guitar. The karaoke thing. Jake ventured, a playful glint in his eye. Nope. I love karaoke. The lie is I can't play the guitar, she confessed, a hint of embarrassment creeping in. As the game continued, Emily felt a growing camaraderie with her friends, but Jake's lingering gaze still unsettled her. There was an intensity in the way he watched her, and she couldn't help but feel like he was searching for something more. Your turn, Jake. Lisa prompted, bringing him back into focus. All right, here we go. I've traveled to 3 continents, I've gone bungee jumping, and I've been in a fist fight, Jake said, his tone casual. I'm guessing the fist fight is the lie, Mark said, his brow raised in skepticism. Nope. I have been in a fight, Jake replied, a smirk on his face. But I've never traveled outside North America. Seriously? I thought you were more adventurous than that. Lisa exclaimed, her eyes wide with surprise. As the game progressed, Emily's thoughts drifted back to the secrets lingering in the shadows. With the rain still pouring outside and the flickering lights creating an almost dreamlike atmosphere, she felt an urge to speak her mind. Okay, everyone, she began, her voice steadying. What's something you've always wanted to do but haven't had the chance? Mark leaned back thoughtfully. I've always wanted to go on a road trip across the country. Just me and my friends, no plan, just exploring. I'd love to do that too. Lisa chimed in. I think it would be amazing to see all the different landscapes. Jake nodded, looking contemplative. I've always wanted to go backpacking in Europe. I think it would be incredible to just wander and meet new people. Emily felt a warmth spread through her heart, but she still struggled with the heaviness of her own thoughts. I guess I've always wanted to write a book, she confessed, her eyes flicking down to her hands. But I never really believed I could. Why not? You totally should. Mark encouraged. You've got a great voice. I agree, Lisa added. You should go for it. Emily smiled, grateful for their support but still feeling a sense of apprehension. Thanks, I appreciate it. Maybe one day. Just then, the lights flickered again, and the atmosphere shifted slightly. The sound of the rain intensified, creating a backdrop of tension that felt palpable. Emily noticed Jake leaning in closer, an unreadable expression on his face. Hey, can I talk to you for a minute? He asked, his tone serious yet inviting. Okay, Emily replied hesitantly, glancing at Mark and Lisa, who exchanged knowing looks. Jake led her to a corner of the room, away from the lively atmosphere. The flickering lights cast shadows around them, making the moment feel more intimate than Emily had expected. What's up? She asked, trying to keep her tone light, but her heart raced at the sudden shift in mood. I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed hanging out with you today, Jake began, his voice steady. I know things have been a little weird, but I feel like there's something between us. Emily felt her heart skip a beat, a mixture of excitement and apprehension flooding her senses. What do you mean? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. I mean, I like you, Emily, Jake confessed, stepping closer. I've liked you for a while, and I can't ignore it anymore. I don't want to complicate things, especially with Mark being your friend, but I just needed to tell you. Her breath caught in her throat, the weight of his confession hanging in the air. Emily's mind raced, caught between the thrill of his admission and the loyalty she felt toward Mark. Jake, I don't know what to say, she stammered, her heart pounding. Just think about it, he said, stepping back slightly, giving her space. I know this is sudden, but I had to be honest with you. As she processed his words, the storm outside seemed to grow louder, mirroring the turmoil within her. She watched Jake walk back to the group, leaving her alone in her thoughts. The gravity of the moment settled over her, and she felt torn between her feelings for Jake and her loyalty to Mark. Taking a deep breath, Emily returned to the group, where laughter echoed, and the music played on. But everything felt different now, as if a veil had been lifted, exposing unspoken truths and desires. Mark looked at her, a hint of concern in his eyes. Are you okay? He asked softly. Yeah, I'm fine, Emily replied, forcing a smile, but inside, her heart was racing with uncertainty. As the night wore on, the laughter continued, but Emily felt the weight of the moment hanging heavy over her. She knew she had a decision to make, one that would change everything. Chapter 8: A Crossroad of Choices. The party continued around her, but Emily felt like she was floating in a bubble, isolated from the laughter and the music. Jake's confession echoed in her mind, a mix of excitement and dread swirling together. Her heart raced, caught in the conflict between her feelings and her loyalty to Mark. As Emily rejoined the group, Mark glanced at her with an expression that mirrored concern and curiosity. Everything good? He asked, lowering his voice as they drifted toward the back of the room. Yeah, just talking, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Talking about what? Mark pressed gently, a frown forming on his face. She hesitated, grappling with how much to reveal. Just about the game and everything, she said, avoiding his gaze. Mark nodded, but Emily could sense the doubt lurking in his eyes. She felt a pang of guilt for not being completely honest, but the weight of the truth felt too heavy to share. "Let's get back to the game," Lisa suggested, trying to keep the mood light. "I think it's your turn, Emily." "Right, okay," she said, forcing a smile as she rejoined the group. "How about I go again? Truth or dare, Mark?" "Dare," he replied with confidence, eager to keep the energy flowing. "I dare you to serenade us," she declared, a grin spreading across her face. Mark chuckled, feigning reluctance. All right. But I'm not sure you want to hear this." He cleared his throat dramatically and started singing a cheesy love song, his voice playful and exaggerated. The room erupted in laughter, and for a brief moment, Emily found herself swept up in the lightheartedness of the moment. After Mark finished his impromptu performance, the group erupted into applause, and Emily felt a wave of relief wash over her. But her heart was still heavy, the weight of Jake's confession lingering in her mind. The game continued, but Emily found it harder to concentrate. Every time Jake spoke or laughed, she felt a flicker of electricity, a reminder of what he had said. Mark's presence, warm and comforting, only added to the conflict brewing inside her. "Okay, I'll go," Lisa said, eager to keep things lively. "Jake, truth or dare?" "Dare," he replied, a hint of challenge in his tone. "I dare you to give Emily a compliment," Lisa declared, her eyes twinkling with mischief. Jake turned to Emily, his expression serious for a moment before it shifted into a charming smile. "All right. Emily, I think you have an incredible spirit. You bring so much light to every room you walk into." The compliment hung in the air, and Emily felt heat rise to her cheeks. "Thanks, Jake," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Okay, your turn, Emily," Lisa said, clearly enjoying the game. Okay. Mark, truth or dare?" she asked, feeling the tension creep back in. "Dare," he replied confidently. "I dare you to do your best impression of a celebrity," she challenged, a grin creeping onto her face. Mark raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "All right, let me think," he paused dramatically, then launched into an over-the-top impression of a well-known actor, complete with exaggerated gestures and accents. The room filled with laughter, but Emily's mind wandered again, the flickering lights casting shadows that seemed to mirror her own uncertainty. As the game continued, she felt an overwhelming urge to step outside for a breath of fresh air. "I'll be right back," she announced, making her way to the door, feeling the weight of everyone's eyes on her. Once outside, the cool air hit her face, refreshing yet jarring. The rain had slowed to a gentle drizzle, and the world felt quieter. She leaned against the porch railing, breathing in deeply, trying to clear her mind. "Hey, mind if I join you?" Jake's voice broke through the silence, pulling her from her thoughts. Sure," Emily replied, surprised but not entirely against the idea. Jake stepped outside, the soft glow of the lodge's lights illuminating his features. "I didn't mean to make things weird earlier," he said, leaning against the railing beside her. "I just felt like I needed to be honest." "It's okay," Emily said, glancing at him. "I appreciate you being upfront. Look, I get it if you're not interested." "I just had to say something," he said, his voice softening. "I'm just trying to figure things out," Emily admitted, feeling the weight of her own uncertainty. "Is it because of Mark?" Jake asked, a hint of vulnerability in his tone. Emily hesitated, feeling the pressure of the moment. "Mark is a great guy. He's been a good friend to me, and I don't want to hurt him," she confessed. "I get that," Jake said, his gaze earnest. "But what if you feel something for me too? Wouldn't it be worth exploring?" The rain began to pick up again, falling in soft droplets around them. Emily felt her heart race at the thought of crossing that line, of letting herself explore the feelings she had for Jake. But the loyalty she felt for Mark held her back, chaining her to indecision. "I don't want to hurt anyone," she murmured, looking away, lost in her thoughts. "I understand. Just think about it," Jake said, stepping back slightly, giving her space. The moment hung in the air, charged with tension and unspoken words. She felt torn between the thrill of possibility and the weight of responsibility, caught at a crossroad she hadn't anticipated. As the rain continued to fall, Emily took a deep breath, trying to find clarity amidst the storm. "I'll think about it," she promised softly, though uncertainty still lingered in her heart. After a moment of silence, they returned inside, the warmth of the lodge enveloping them as they rejoined the group. The laughter and music welcomed them back, but Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted forever. Mark noticed her return and smiled, his eyes brightening as they met hers. "You okay?" he asked, genuine concern in his voice. "Yeah, I'm good," Emily replied, forcing a smile, but her heart felt heavy with the weight of her decision. As the night wore on, Emily found herself lost in thought, grappling with the choices before her. The laughter and joy around her felt distant, overshadowed by the truths that lingered just below the surface. She knew she had to confront her feelings soon, but the path ahead felt uncertain, fraught with potential heartache. And as she watched Jake share a laugh with Mark, the stakes of her choices loomed large, casting a shadow over the night.